So, a while ago, 343 announced that Halo Infinite's multiplayer is going to be made free to play. This, as a whole, has caused a lot of communication among the community. Many people have liked it, while there have been some that have a more skeptical opinion. And overall, this has sort of been the talk of the town for a little bit of time. And it's easy to see why on the surface. A Halo free-to-play game? This is amazing! I can't wait to do that. It's gonna make everything so much better. And here I am, not to rain on a parade, but where I have to be honest, I legitimately think that this could do more harm than good, and that making Halo free-to-play can be detrimental to the entire game's experience as well as the quality of what's being sold. So, before we start on any of the basis, let's talk about what Halo Infinite being made free-to-play can have positively, and how it can affect the game in a positive way. Well, the first and the most obvious is that it is by far going to make the game far more accessible. At the end of the day, it is a lot easier to get people to play a game that's free-to-play than for them to dedicate a $60 purchase to a game that they're not even sure if they want yet. So, there's that. This, as a byproduct, will also spike a lot of early numbers, as many people are going to want to try the game, and since it is free to play, there is no paywall to play the game. And the thing is you have that, and the next positive is that it also, as a result of more people being able to access the game, it is also going to increase a lot of stream and a lot of media surrounding this game, such as Twitch, streams, and all that sort of stuff. So, there is going to be a lot of live streams, a lot of tournaments, a lot of stuff like that. And I mean, as a whole, these are really good things. These are things that are fantastic for the game. And if this was all to be said, then there would legitimately be nothing negative to talk about. But, like most things in life, it is not that simple, as there are plenty of downsides that this is also going to implement, especially if 343 does not cover their bases. The first one, and the most simple one, is how are they going to profit off of the game? The thing is when you make a game free to play, you cannot just expect the developer to not want to make money through other ways, shapes, and forms. And going by Halo 5's experience, the most quick way they're going to attempt to make return on marginal value, aside from the campaign, because there's no way they're just going to depend on the campaign to make their money, is, without a shadow of a doubt, they're going to monetize the progression system. Now, people say, what's wrong with that? You'll still make it through, you'll still, that's better than having to pay a $60 game, and in theory, it would. Except you're not looking at how this affects the game at a core fundamental level with the basis on, as soon as you start tampering with the progression system, the entire value of what you unlock is going to change. And even disregarding that, the biggest problem with this is that it's going to monetize for people to be able to pay to skip. Like, think about modern day video games. What is the most common way they're going to monetize the basis of the game? Well, by far, just going by my experiences, they're going to attempt to implement a battle pass system. And the problem with that is that that's going to be completely contradictory to what Halo's core mechanics, or not their core mechanics, but Halo's core progression has always been about. It's always been earning through skill, or at the very least through experience, to be able to unlock good shit, in that each armor would have an accordance of value that would be in accordance to how much time you put into the game, or even better, when you unlock it through achievement. This is not going to be the case through Halo Infinite, though, because the minute you start implementing a battle pass system that just allows you to add in, to buy this armor directly, then the incentive to play and get this armor and actually have a sense of pride when you get it is going to decrease. And as a result of that, it's going to make the overall the overall investment of the progression system go down. And this is best case scenario. Because here's the thing. I doubt 343 is going to have it where they'll play it smart and just only do progressions such as, like, armors, skins, or, like, you know, like armor camos or weapon skins and stuff like that. I honestly doubt that they would be that smart and just keep it in those areas. I don't even think Microsoft would let them. I honestly think it would infect every area of the game. So, at the end of the day, this whole thing with the Battle Pass and just kind of decreasing the value, that is best case scenario. That is the basis on 343 just having it where it is an equal playing field. But the thing is when you buy a Battle Pass, it usually isn't. Because that's the thing. It's not going to be free. It's not going to have a basis. You're going to buy it. And the minute you do buy it, you're going to have an advantage and a leg up over everyone else. And that's where you run into the problem where the armor isn't going to have that value because it's not reflecting the skill or even the time being played. Because if I can unlock that armor by buying a Battle Pass in 5 hours when everyone else has to take 15 hours, then that sort of negates the basis on the pride of actually getting the armor. And to make it even worse, like I said, that is best case scenario. The minute you get to the worst, I honestly think, I don't want to think 343 would take it this far, but the entire basis would be that they might honestly block out the progression system for those that don't get the Battle Pass. I mean, I don't want to think they would take it that far, but is it so absurd for me to think that? Is it so absurd for me to think that they might actually take it that far where they'll just simply block out the progression for those that refuse to buy the Battle Pass? Because of course they'll make an excuse for it. They'll go, oh, it's free to play. What's the big deal if you spend $10? And you see where the problem comes with that? Literally, you're to a point where the entire game is now being oriented around this system that is going to kill the enjoyment out of people that don't want to sink in that extra cash. And not even just that, but it's like, as soon as you get the game, you know, I very much am a believer of this mindset. That as soon as you get the game is yours. The content is yours. You don't purposely create artificial paywalls for people to be able to access the aspects of the game, such as its progression. To me, that's just borderline unfair. And so if they go down that route, of just over-investing the game with all this monetized shit, and then creating a paywall, well, that's going to alienate a lot of people, and as a result, yes, maybe the game will spike really well early on, but as time goes on, people are going to get sick of that. People are going to get sick of, like, a timed Battle Pass. And it's one of the most bullshit ways to keep people playing. The whole basis on, oh, you better play, because if you don't keep playing after this certain point, you know, you're not going to be able to get this thing. And even if they go the route of MCC, where MCC, thank God, allows you to at least go back and unlock the stuff from the previous season, it doesn't change the other issues. And honestly, if they make this free to play, I don't even know if they would have that kind of generosity mindset. I really don't. I don't think they would. And that's just the first problem. The next problem, and this is kind of centered around 343's responses, is content. Because the whole thing is, when you pay a $60 game, like it or hate it, it does at least create a standard of quality and content that people grow to expect out of your product. And when you fail to deliver that content, you know, there's uproar, there's backlash, your game won't do well. The thing with a free-to-play game is that standard of quality and content is nowhere near as high as it is for, say, like I said, a $60 game. Because the whole thing is, they can make the excuse as, like, you know, oh, it's a free-to-play game. So you can't really complain about content when everything we're giving you is for free, and there's no burden in accordance with your purchase. And that's a problem. That is a legitimate problem to hold against the game that could ultimately infect it everywhere it exists. And to make it worse, the whole thing is 343's actually been very vague on how much content is even going to be in the game. It's an excuse. It's a basis of covering their asses. And as a result, it's just going to turn Halo into a stereotypical free-to-play game rather than legitimately just a great Halo game that still happens to be free-to-play. You know, they're probably going to build the multiplayer to accommodate for the free-to-play system, not the other way around. And so, as a result, even looking at it from a mechanical standpoint, they'll probably end up designing the game to appeal to the lowest common denominator. Which means, as a result, there's probably also going to be a lack of innovation. Because how could they? How can they innovate and risk alienating any group that would potentially play their free-to-play game? How would that work? You know, if they did that, it would turn people off. But, you know, it's just people aren't going to, like... Because that's just how it is. As soon as you make a free-to-play game, it is designed at its core to appeal to the lowest common denominator. There's no basis. There's no dedication behind the game. And so, as a result, even the people you get, and this is where I'm going to come across as really petty here, this is kind of the problem that even a free-to-play game has at its core level by having that many people. Now, don't get me wrong, a game having a larger community is not a bad thing, alright? I'm not saying that a game that has a large community is a bad thing. It's definitely, objectively speaking, a very good thing for the game and the series. But there are drawbacks that a lowest common denominator community can bring, in the sense of literally when you have a community that accommodates, when you have a game that accommodates for the lowest common denominator, there is a lack of innovation, but more importantly, there's a lack of dedication. Because the whole thing is, the whole integral point is that most people are going to buy the game, or not buy the game, but download the game and play the game. And yes, they may like it, they may think, oh, this is a pretty good game, but unless you're doing something that really separates you from the rest of the pack, which I don't think 343 would do, because again, I think 343 is scared to take that kind of risk, is people are simply going to like it, but the minute something else comes out on the market that's pretty valuable, the game's going to be abandoned by most people. And this is a contrast to when you do that $60 purchase on a game that legitimately is like highly innovative, highly dedicated. Those are games that stick because you make that purchase, you make that dedication, you make that basis that, you know, once when you buy that game, you are in a sense committed to it. And unless the game is mediocre or bad enough to where you feel like you've wasted your purchase, you're going to stick around for a while, because if nothing else, you're going to do so to make that $60 purchase worthwhile. And as a result of that, the people that do stick around, the things, you know, you'll consistently have more people stick around in the long run. And the thing is unlike a free-to-play game, since they can just move on to literally anything else, is the people that dedicate themselves into buying this game and sticking with it, they're going to be dedicated to making the game better and experimenting and having it where 343 can legitimately make better innovations for this game and just increase the overall fun factor. Make it separate. The problem with a free-to-play game is not that it's accessible. It's not that more people are going to play it. It's not any of that. And hell, even a lot of the problems that I just highlighted can be avoided if they legitimately try to. But the problem is I don't think they will, and then you get into the simple problem, the problem that infects this game at its fundamental core, is that it's just going to attempt to appeal to the lowest common denominator. Halo's still not going to be able to retain an identity. In fact, you can even see it within the basis of its campaign, literally having mechanics that are like every other shooter in the market. And so it's one of those things where, yes, the early appeal for the game will be up there early on. Alright, people will get the game, they'll want to play it, they'll have fun with it, But the thing is because there's a lack of uniqueness and there's a lack of true dedication, and on top of that, the whole thing is games come out constantly. And so it's kind of, this is where I literally hit the field where, like I said, when that $60 purchase happens, the commitment to the game is made. You do legitimately, in a sense, have a commitment to the game. If nothing else, just to make that $60 purchase worthwhile. And often, because when you buy a $60 game, it's because you have an insane interest in it. And this is kind of where, again, not to come across as petty, but it is one of those things where, from my own mindset, I would rather have 10 people that love my game than 90 people that just simply like my game, but, you know, we'll just move on as soon as something else is done. You know? Because at the end of the day, it's the people that love it and the people that have that dedication to it that are going to make your game better. But, you know, that doesn't mean this free-to-play mindset can't work. It can certainly work. But that requires 343 to have a level of composure and legitimate care that I just don't think they have. You know, again, because just trying to make a game that's just going to attempt to appeal to everyone is going to kill this game's identity. It is going to kill anything that makes it stand out. And as a result, as soon as another game comes out that's fresh and new, but has all the same benefits, people are just going to jump to that game without any second thought or hesitation. So, the whole thing is, and I'll cover this in another video, but the whole thing about making Halo Infinite a 10-year plan, with this kind of mindset and everything I've seen so far, that is not going to work. This 10-year plan, this whole mindset surrounding that is not going to work out for the game's favor. And I honestly don't think they can make it 10 years with that mindset. So, that's beside the point. This is about it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. But until then, I'll see you next time. Peace.